is a project within the framework of the Erasmus Plus program created? First, there must be a theme or an issue of interest. Perhaps a problem that concerns us personally, or perhaps the society in which we live in. We may be for or against something, but never indifferent or apathetic. When the moment arises when we decide to get actively involved in change, or point out a problematic issue, that is when we are closer to implementation. The only thing missing is the first step, sitting down in front of the computer and writing down the idea. However, the idea by itself will not strive without a clear plan on how to achieve the goal, sufficient funds, and a team prepared to follow the plan through. Only when these conditions are met, the idea becomes a project. Erasmus Plus projects require a lot of preparation, patience, knowledge, and perseverance. And of course friends around Europe happy to participate, as without them, there is no project. We are aware that the relationships between people and countries in Europe need to be highlighted, especially after the great financial crisis between 2008 and 2014 and the migration of nations towards Europe in the past year. At several previous exchanges within the Erasmus Plus program, we noticed that international conversations quickly turned prejudiced, especially between participants coming from the north and south of Europe. This led to a draft of a project reflecting the image of Europe divided between the rich north and the poor south, between those for and those against helping people fleeing war. A Europe where each crisis highlights prejudice and stereotypes and inspires a revival of discrimination, xenophobia, hate speech, and hate-motivated violence. We observed the rise of radical political groups in opposition to the ideas and values of the European Union, such as acceptance of diversity and respect for equality, solidarity, openness, and freedom. The aim of our project was to strengthen the common European values by drawing attention to this problem, develop greater intercultural awareness between the participants, and teach them tools to combat prejudice and discrimination. The title, Pride and Prejudice, was inspired by Jane Austen's famous novel. We invited 26 young people from Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, Romania, Croatia, Poland and Slovenia, which we met at international exchanges that CESAM participated in the past. They arrived in Ruše, Slovenia, on the 2nd of August 2016, and for the next 10 days stayed at the hostel Veternica, which operates under the 3-star hotel Veter in Ruše. We also prepared a quality menu with a variety of food, taking into account all nutritional preferences of our participants. A swimming pool at a sports park, a wellness center, a sauna and a fitness center were available to the participants. For the visual recognition of the project, we created a corporate identity that personified the idea of the project. For this, we borrowed the European blue with yellow stars from the EU and used a compass bearing a symbolical meaning. The corporate identity was used when designing the Facebook page, the official project t-shirts given to all participants, as well as printed materials, flags, posters, flyers, and the brochure of the project. Two months before the start of the project, the preparations started. We created a Facebook page where our participants received all the necessary information about the project and Slovenia. The advantage of a Facebook page is also that the participants could begin correspondence before they first met. Head coach of the project, Nina Jurekovic, and her assistant Maja Potočar used the first evening for icebreakers and games helping the participants getting to know each other. The aim of these activities is that young people who have never previously met become comfortable with other participants and are able to work together in the coming 10 days. Whether they will become friends or even partners for life is hard to say at this stage, but our aim was to set up a project in a pleasant working atmosphere based on trust and cooperation between the participants. The work method of Erasmus Plus projects is informal learning. Therefore, our project included debates, lectures, discussions, simulation games, social campaigns, lived-up films and flash mob actions. The aim was that the participants gain knowledge and skills, which they can use back home when tackling prejudice, discrimination, racism, and xenophobia, and thereby create a higher level of consciousness and intercultural dialogue. An important part of the Erasmus Plus program is socializing. Participants informally mingled at leisure, at the afternoon coffee breaks at a cafe, in the pool, during the walks around the city, and on trips. A more formal way of socializing were the intercultural evenings, where each team presents their own country, their culture, traditional music and dancing, food, drinks, and a typical lifestyle. These evenings later developed into relaxed parties, lasting late into the night. The Slovenian evening was enriched with a performance by local folk and musical groups and complemented by delicious regional food and drink. Some of our participants have come from far away, and for most, this was their first time in Slovenia, so naturally they wanted to get to know it better. As we had only one day reserved for a trip, we wanted to make the best of it and to roughly explore the most beautiful corners of Slovenia. One of the most distinctive parts is definitely the Triglav National Park, with the Bled Gorge, the lake and the castle. Bled was for our participants a special experience, as they could get to know a piece of wild nature offered by Slovenia. We were lucky regarding the weather, and from the top of the Bled Castle, a magical view over the lake, the island and even the Julian Alps in the background opened to us. Of course, the merry atmosphere was greatly enhanced by the Bled cream slices and fresh coffee. Ljubljana, capital of Slovenia, is one of the most visited tourist destinations and has offered our participants a more urban experience. They explored the old town centre, the Prešeren Square, Rob's Fountain and the Ljubljana Castle. Day for the diary, as some of the participants named it. A local TV station reported like this about our social campaign, Free Hug.
Le kaj lahko danes dobimo zastonj? Objem. Po ulicah Maribora jih je podarjalo 27 mladih iz Grčije, Cipra, Turčije, Romunije, Poljske in seveda Slovenije. Akcija Podarim ti objem je bila del programa Erasmus+. Nič ne stane, marsikoga pa prijetno preseneti in polepša dan, so se strinjali mladi delilci objemov. Za Mariborčane so jih imeli na zalogi neskončno.
It just takes a moment or just a second for someone to make more happy than he or she is at the moment, and it also gives back that pleasure.
I have enough hugs for everybody in the world. So, I don't know, maybe 100, maybe 200, I don't know.
Potrebujemo jih vsi.
Psihološkim istraživanjima čovjek treba minimalno 8 zagrljaja dnevno da bi održao nekakvu razinu energije i sreće, a 12 zagrljaja dnevno kako bi napredovao. I zato su nam zagrljaji jako važni.
Z njimi so skušali širiti pozitivne ideje in misli ter tako izničiti predsodke.
We are trying to make disappearing the discrimination, and we want to cancel out the racist and all the bad feelings we have with for other peoples, not just only because of their colors or because of their religions. It's weird. We don't need anymore that kind of issues and feelings.
Te je treba premagati, da lahko vzpostaviš fizični stik prek objema z neznancem.
I feel maybe full of energy, and that's just because you don't get free hugs every day, and probably we stopped hugging each other, except if you just really know that person. I think it helps a lot when you just get a random hug from a stranger.
Tokrat je bilo brezplačno objemanje del delavnic projekta Ponos in predsodki, ki so ga predstavniki Centra za mlade Ruše uspešno pridobili na razpisu programa Erasmus+.
Ta program predvideva tudi delavnice, ki so seveda namenjene temu, da poudarimo to evropsko razmišljanje, torej solidarnost nasproti recimo predsodkom. In ta akcija je recimo podarjanje dobre energije, rečemo temu tako.
Podariti objem ni samo lepa gesta, pač pa je tudi čustvena terapija, ki lahko pomaga vsakomur.
Local and national media follow the Pride and Prejudice project with interest. Already during the introduction period, the daily news Večer, RTV Slovenia, Radio Maribor, the local monthly paper Ruške novice, the web portal lokalec.si, and a local TV station, BKTV, covered the project. BKTV also provided a reportage. This film will also count as dissemination, as it will be shared on our Facebook page and other social media platforms by the officials of the project and of course by our participants. Perhaps it will even be used for dissemination of the idea of the project in their local communities. Before the last day, and with that the day of farewell, our participants learned about the functioning of the European Union, how to prepare a project by themselves, and at the closing ceremony received their Youth Pass diplomas. The last day, the participants assessed the quality of everything from the workshops to social games, roundtables, accommodation, food, socializing opportunities, the day trip, as well as the work of the coach, assistant and the manager. The project has received a total rating of 5.5, within a range from 1 to 6. All 3 project leaders have received an average rating of 5.8, which was the highest score received for any of the criteria assessed by the participants. And instead of a farewell, let us introduce the follow-up. We are naming it Europe Sings Together, and it will strive for the same aims as this project, but with slightly different methods.